My name's Jake. I'm 28, and until last year, I genuinely believed I had my life figured out. I had a good job in logistics, a modest but cozy apartment just outside of Austin, and after nearly 4 years together, I thought I was finally ready to take the next step with my girlfriend, Dana. She was a little younger, 25, but mature, driven, and with this spark that could light up a room. We met at a mutual friend's New Year's party, and after a month of back-and-forth messages and low-stakes coffee dates, we just clicked. It wasn't fireworks at first, more like one of those old fireplaces you keep feeding it and tending to it until suddenly, it's the only source of warmth in the room. The first year with Dana was magic. She was attentive, curious, always pushing me to open up emotionally, something I was never very good at. I'd come home from a 12-hour shift, and she'd have takeout on the couch and some obscure documentary queued up, just because she knew I liked learning random stuff. I think part of me ignored the small things, the passive-aggressive jokes about my job not being ambitious enough, or how she never wanted to introduce me to her friends, claiming they were judgmental and too into their own drama. But love makes you overlook a lot. When you're too rolled around, Dana lost her job at the architecture firm she'd interned at. Downsizing, they said. She was devastated, and I did what any partner would do. I picked up more shifts, encouraged her to take time, offered to cover her half of the rent until she figured out her next move. She took it hard, said she felt like a failure, like she wasn't contributing. I kept reminding her that it was just a season and we'd get through it together. But then the season dragged into a year, and things shifted. She started spending more time at home, but not in a cozy, domestic way. More like she was slowly withdrawing into herself. Always on her phone, always texting someone with this weird, secretive smile. She'd sleep in until noon, claim she was job hunting, then disappear for hours to clear her head. I tried not to pry again. I trusted her. I really did. I figured people process things differently and maybe she just needed space. Meanwhile, I was working overtime, sometimes back-to-back night shifts, trying to keep us afloat. I had this dream of taking her to Santorini. She'd always talk about how Greece was her dream destination. I even remembered her saying once, while we were watching a travel vlog, I want to swim in those blue waters before I turn 30. So I started saving in secret. Every bonus, every little raise, I put it into a travel fund. I called it Operation Santorini in the Notes app. Now here's where things start to slide into the surreal. One Thursday afternoon, I got sent home early from work. A shipment got delayed, so they told us to pack up and take the rest of the day off. I figured I'd finally surprise Dana with the tickets. I'd booked them 2 weeks earlier and had been dying to see her reaction. I stopped by her favorite bakery, grabbed her favorite blueberry scone, and even picked up a little envelope from the stationery store to make the big reveal feel special. I remember humming on the way up the stairs to our apartment, the kind of dumb little tune you only hum when you feel like life is finally going right. I unlocked the door quietly, thinking it'd be cute to sneak in and catch her off guard. The second I stepped inside, I froze. Her voice was coming from the bedroom, just faint enough that I couldn't make out the words. I thought maybe she was on the phone. I walked toward the hallway, holding the envelope behind my back like a fool. Then I heard it. Her voice. Laughing. He's just a safety net. Once I'm stable, I'm gone. I mean, come on. Logistics? He's sweet, but he's not going anywhere. I stopped breathing. The words punched the air out of my chest like I'd been tackled. I stood there, paralyzed, listening to her continue like she was discussing a subscription she planned to cancel. Yeah, he works hard. I'll give him that. But I don't want to be stuck in this small life forever. I need more. Real success. Real people. Not just stability. My hand tightened around the envelope so hard it crumpled slightly at the edges. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just backed up, turned around, and walked into the kitchen in a daze. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I pulled out the little envelope, placed it neatly on the kitchen table with the tickets and a note that simply read, "You almost had it." Then I left. Quietly. Locked the door behind me and drove. I didn't know where I was going at first. I just needed to be anywhere else. I ended up crashing at my buddy Marcus's place. I told him just enough to explain the look on my face, and he offered me his spare room no questions asked. I spent the night staring at the ceiling, the words looping in my head like a song I hated. He's just a safety net. Over the next few days, I shut down completely. No calls, no texts. I blocked Dana on everything. I didn't want to hear her voice, didn't want to risk her justifying it, twisting it, doing what she was so good at, manipulating the narrative. I didn't go home. I didn't even pack. I left everything, our shared furniture, the apartment I'd spent 3 years building a life in. I figured she could have it. For a week, it was silent. Then came the voicemails. First one, soft, fake confused. Hey, where are you? I just saw the envelope. I'm so confused, can we talk? Then came the panic. Jake, this isn't funny. What is going on? Why would you leave like that? Then came the tears. Night after night. Please come home. I'm sorry. I was just venting to a friend. You know I didn't mean it like that. 7 weeks. Every night. Like clockwork. And the more she begged, the more I started wondering, was she sorry for what she said, or just sorry I heard it? But here's where the plot thickens, and where the real drama starts. I wish this story was just about heartbreak and moving on. But no, that would have been too easy. Because just when I thought I could put Dana in my rear view, her family decided to get involved. And that's where things took a turn from tragic to absolutely unhinged. It started with a Facebook message from her mother. A long one. Rambling. Half passive-aggressive, half guilt-trippy. She said things like, I thought you were a real man. And you don't abandon someone just because they make one mistake. She implied I owed Dana closure. That leaving was the real betrayal. I didn't respond. So then her sister reached out. Same story, different flavor. This one was more smug, like I was the one who had failed them somehow. She's been crying for days. I hope you're proud of yourself. Like I wasn't the one picking up the pieces of a broken illusion. Like I hadn't spent months planning a once-in-a-lifetime trip for someone who only saw me as a stepping stone. But then it got personal. Her dad, who I'd barely spoken to during the entire relationship, left a voicemail on my work line, demanding I man up and stop playing games with his daughter's heart. That voicemail changed everything. Because that's when I realized they didn't just want me to come back. They expected me to. Like it was my duty to forgive and forget. To return to my place on the shelf as the reliable, convenient, harmless boyfriend. The safety net. And that's when the idea hit me. If they wanted drama, I'd give them drama. But on my terms. I wasn't going to yell or throw things or air out her dirty laundry online. No. I was going to show them exactly who they underestimated. But before I get to that part, before the wheels of revenge even start turning, something happened that made it personal in a way I never expected. Something involving my younger sister, Emily, who'd always looked up to Dana and had just moved back home after college. And that's where things really start to unravel. Emily was 22, fresh out of college, and still had that wide-eyed optimism that the world hadn't beaten out of her yet. She had just moved back into town that summer and was crashing with our parents while she figured things out. I hadn't told her much about what happened between me and Dana, just that we broke up and that I didn't want to talk about it. Emily was always close to Dana in a weird little sister, cool girl worship sort of way. Dana used to give her makeup tips, helped her write a cover letter once, even took her to get her first cocktail when she turned 21. I think Emily saw her as more than just my girlfriend. She was like the older sister she never had. So you can imagine my surprise when Emily showed up at Marcus's place on a Tuesday evening, looking pale and shaken, holding her phone like it had personally betrayed her. I think you need to see this, she said, barely getting the words out. She handed me her phone, and my stomach turned before I even looked. There it was, an Instagram story. Dana's story. Posted just a few hours earlier. It was a photo of her and some guy I'd never seen before. They were out at a rooftop bar downtown, all dressed up, champagne in hand. She had that same sly smile she used to give me when she knew she was pushing boundaries. The caption? Upgrade season. No more dead weight. That's when I knew. The voicemails weren't about love. They were about image. Dana had been keeping up the poor me, he left me routine because she didn't want to be seen as the one who got dumped. She wanted to spin the story, twist the narrative so she was still the protagonist. And now that enough time had passed, she could publicly flaunt her new life, while pretending she'd been the victim all along. Emily sat across from me, waiting for me to say something. I didn't. I was too focused on keeping my hands from shaking. She leaned in a little and said, Jake, there's more. And what she told me next made my skin go cold. Apparently, Dana had reached out to her a week earlier, under the guise of missing the family. She told Emily she was worried about me, said I'd been acting erratic, that I was shutting people out, and that she was concerned I might do something stupid. It wasn't just manipulation. It was a setup. She was planting the seeds to make me look unstable. So if I ever told anyone the truth, if I ever aired what she said that day in the bedroom, she can spin it like I was delusional, that I misunderstood, that I'd heard what I wanted to hear. And that's when the anger settled in. The cold, calculated kind. The kind that sits quietly in your chest, not yelling, not crying, just waiting. Dana didn't want closure. She wanted control. And now she was trying to manipulate my sister, the one person in my family who'd still defended her. That wasn't just low. That was war. So I started making plans. First, I pulled all the messages, voicemails, and screenshots I'd saved. Every, "I'm sorry," every, "please come back," every video message where she was sobbing about how she'd made a mistake. I cataloged them. I made backups. I even recorded myself telling the story from start to finish, dates, receipts, everything. Just in case. Not for revenge yet. For protection. Dana was the kind of person who could burn down your life with a single well-placed rumor. Then, I contacted our old landlord and arranged to end the lease early. The unit was already due for a renewal in a few weeks, and with my name still on it, I had the power to walk away. I didn't want anything from that apartment. I just wanted my name off it before Dana started digging her claws in legally. She didn't take that well. The text came in fast, panicked, furious. "You're ruining my life. You can't just leave me homeless. You're being vindictive and immature." And that's when I knew. Her fallback plan was gone. She'd burned her bridge too early. She had a new guy, sure, but she thought I'd still be there in the background. That I'd still be her safety net in case things didn't work out. She underestimated me. Then the final straw landed like a boulder. Emily called me again, this time late at night. She sounded shaken. "Jake, Mom just called. Dana showed up at the house." "What?" I sat up in bed, immediately wide awake. "She said she was there to return something of yours," Emily said. "But she wasn't carrying anything. She talked to Mom for over an hour. About you." Apparently, Dana had told my mom that she was worried I was isolating myself, that I'd been acting paranoid and unstable. She played the concerned ex perfectly. She even cried. "I think she's trying to get ahead of something," Emily said. "Like, if you say anything, she wants people to already think you're unreliable." It was genius. Evil, but genius. Dana had realized I was slipping out of her control, so now she was laying the groundwork to discredit me before I could expose her. And that's when something in me snapped. It was no longer about heartbreak. It was about justice. About truth. This wasn't just a messy breakup. This was calculated character assassination. And if she wanted to play that game, then fine. But I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to outmaneuver her. So I started building my plan, not petty revenge, not public drama, but something much more satisfying. And the first piece of the puzzle? A wedding. But not mine. Her sister's. And Dana had no idea what was coming. The wedding was set for early November, just under 3 months away. Dana's sister, Hannah, was marrying some tech guy from Dallas, the kind who wore loafers without socks and used the word synergy unironically. I'd met him once during the early days of my relationship with Dana, and I remember him asking me if logistics was like a warehouse thing or more like Amazon drones. I didn't bother explaining. Hannah and I weren't close, but we were civil. She always struck me as more grounded than Dana, more practical. But there was this thin layer of superiority she carried around, the kind you only notice when you've been around it long enough. She'd roll her eyes at Dana behind her back, then hug her too long in front of others. Classic sibling competition, dressed up in Instagram smiles. Now, here's where things get interesting. About a year ago, before everything went downhill, Dana had volunteered me to help with some of the wedding logistics. Booking the guest shuttle, sorting out seating arrangements, and even managing a shared spreadsheet of RSVPs. I wasn't thrilled, but I agreed at the time. You do stuff for your partner's family, especially when you think you're building a future with them. But Dana never told Hannah that I stopped being part of the planning when we broke up. My name was still on the shared Google Drive folder, still on the group emails, still marked as the point of contact for a few vendors. So when I logged into that folder again for the first time in months, everything was still wide open. And that's when I found something. A notes document, Hannah's personal breakdown of table placements and VIP seating, which included commentary. I'm talking brutal little notes like, "Uncle Marvin, only invite if Dad insists, drinks too much, smells like salami, Becca cousin, sits alone unless someone volunteers to take one for the team, and my personal favorite, Dana. Separate from Jake if they're still together. If not, put her next to Tyler." So not only did Hannah not know Dana and I had broken up, she'd planned for the eventuality that we might. I stared at that sentence, "if they're still together," and I realized something. Dana hadn't just kept the breakup quiet out of embarrassment. She wanted to show up with someone else and pretend she had moved on. She wanted to steal the attention, make it look like she was the one thriving. That's why she was posting those rooftop bar photos. That's why she was cozying up to my family. She was laying the groundwork for a performance. And now I had the stage. But I wasn't interested in stealing the spotlight. I was interested in controlling who held the mic. So I waited. I watched. Over the next few weeks, I stayed quiet while Dana kept trying to reassert control, messages to Emily, cryptic posts about healing and new beginnings, and even a not-so-subtle subtweet about men who can't handle strong women. And then I made my move. I called Hannah. "Hey, it's Jake," I said as casually as I could. "I know it's been a while. Dana and well, we're not together anymore." Didn't want to cause any confusion for the wedding. There was a pause. "Oh," she said. "Well, she didn't mention that." "I figured," I said. "But I also figured you might want a heads up. Especially since I'm still getting the RSVP emails and a few of the vendors still have my number." She let out an awkward little laugh. "Oh, right. I should probably fix that." Then, I dropped the bait. "By the way, do you know if she's bringing anyone?" Another pause. "I don't think so." "Why?" "No reason. Just didn't want to make things weird for your big day. I won't even show up if you'd rather keep things smooth." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Actually, would you mind coming for a bit? Just for the ceremony? You helped with so much early on. It'd be weird not to see you there." Hook, line, sinker. I agreed. Graciously. Told her I wouldn't make a scene, that I was just there to support. But behind the scenes, I started planning something a little more theatrical, not malicious. Just clarifying. First, I reached out to a friend of mine, Sophie. We dated briefly back in college, but we stayed good friends. She's smart, funny, and the kind of woman who can walk into a room and instantly raise the average IQ by 10 points. I explained everything: Dana, the breakup, the manipulation, the wedding. She didn't even hesitate. "So you want me to play the graceful, new woman in your life," she said, sipping her coffee, "while your ex implodes trying to figure out how she lost the safety net." "Exactly." She smiled. "I'll need a dress." Now, I wasn't planning some petty public showdown. I wasn't going to make a toast or steal the bride's thunder or anything crazy. But I knew Dana. I knew she hated being upstaged, especially by women who made her feel inferior. Sophie, with her easy charm and quiet confidence, was everything Dana pretended to be online. And the best part? She didn't need to say a word. All she had to do was exist. But then something happened that nearly blew the whole thing up. A week before the wedding, I got a message from an unknown number. "I know what you're planning." I stared at it for a long minute. Then another came through. "You think you're clever, but you're not the only one who knows how to play games." There was no name, no photo. But I didn't need one. It was Dana. She'd found out. Somehow. And if I wasn't careful, she could still flip the script. Turn the whole thing into a toxic ex narrative, tell everyone I was stalking her, harassing her, trying to ruin her sister's big day. That message changed everything. Because now the wedding wasn't just an opportunity. It was a battlefield. The days leading up to the wedding were tight. Every move had to be calculated. I wasn't just playing 4D chess with a woman who had mastered the art of manipulation. I was also walking into a social minefield, where one wrong step could make me look like the bitter ex who couldn't let go. Sophie was all in. She handled everything with this easy grace that made her seem untouchable. She picked a deep emerald green dress that made her look like she'd walked off a Vogue shoot, elegant, not attention-seeking. The perfect mix of classy and effortless. She even suggested we tone down the affection. "You don't want to look like you're trying too hard," she said. "Just let her spiral." I'd never loved a plan more. The wedding day arrived, sunny, annoyingly perfect, the kind of day Instagram lives for. It was held at a renovated vineyard about an hour outside of Austin. Big white tents, fairy lights, champagne towers, the works. I walked in with Sophie right as the pre-ceremony mingling started. Heads turned. A few people recognized me. Some looked confused. Some looked curious. And then I saw her. Dana. She froze when she saw me, like someone had pressed pause on her entire face. Her smile died mid-sentence. Her wine glass tilted slightly in her hand. And when she finally registered Sophie next to me, her eyes narrowed just a bit, just enough for me to catch it. I gave her a small, polite nod. No drama. No smugness. Just acknowledgement. Like she was any other guest. Then I moved on. Sophie and I didn't cling to each other all night. We mingled. We talked to people. We danced once or twice. but I made sure not to hover near Dana. I wanted her to feel my presence, but not be able to touch it. She tried to approach me once, during the cocktail hour. Came up with that practiced little smile she always used when she wanted to control the tone of a conversation. "Jake," she said, too brightly. "Wow. You look well." I smiled. "Thanks. You too." "Sophie, this is Dana." Sophie gave a soft, effortless smile. "Nice to meet you." Dana blinked. "You too. How do you two know each other?" "College," Sophie said, sipping her champagne. He was quieter back then. Less impressive jawline. I laughed. Just once. It was subtle, but Dana's jaw twitched. There was a beat of silence, and then Dana tilted her head. "Well, I guess we've both moved on." Sophie raised her glass slightly, hopefully in the right direction. That ended the conversation. The ceremony went smoothly. The bride cried, the groom fumbled the vows, people clapped. I watched from the third row with Sophie beside me, calm as a monk. But the real payoff came later, during the reception. Dana had clearly planned to make her re-entrance in a second dress. It was a sparkly, silver number, flashy, loud, designed for attention. She strutted in with that same rooftop bar energy, expecting the spotlight. But no one cared. Because in the time she was off changing, Sophie had somehow charmed every table we'd passed. She'd helped an older woman with her corsage, told a few witty stories, complimented Hannah's dress in such a sincere way that the bride insisted on getting a photo with her. My ex was being upstaged without me even lifting a finger. Dana tried again. She approached my sister, Emily, who was talking to Sophie by the dessert table. I caught the tail end of the exchange as I approached from behind. "So you're really hanging out with him now?" Dana said, arms folded. "After everything?" Emily didn't flinch. "After what, Dana?" "After you used him until you thought you could trade up." Sophie smiled politely. "It's fine, Emily. Some people just confuse ambition with stepping on everyone who loves them." Dana's face flushed red. "You don't know anything about me." "Oh, I know enough," Sophie said. "More importantly, he does." Dana turned to me then, desperate to regain some kind of control. "I didn't mean what I said that day. You know that, right? I was just venting. I was frustrated." "You were." I held up a hand. "Calm. Quiet. I heard exactly what you meant, Dana. And you're right. I was your safety net. But you should have asked yourself one thing before you cut the rope." She looked confused. I leaned in just slightly. "What happens when you fall and there's no one left to catch you?" Her eyes watered, just a bit. But I wasn't moved. Not anymore. I turned, offered Sophie my arm, and walked away. We didn't look back. The next morning, I woke up to 4 new voicemails from Dana. They went from apologetic to angry to desperate. I deleted them all. Then I blocked her number for good. Emily texted me later that day. She left the wedding early. No one really noticed. That was the final nail. I didn't need to burn Dana's world down. I just needed to let her light the match and step out of the way. And that's exactly what I did.